Tom.
Hello everybody, Tom Fox here, and we are going to be going into Microsoft's E3 presentation. They showed off quite a bit. Some of it was good, some of it was and some of it they really didn't explain a lot to it. So let's just dive right in. Halo 5, they just kind of showed a little bit more about the story. You know, the chief is AWOL, and other Spartans and other people the UNSC are looking for him. Looks like they have like some sort of vision ability that allows you to see things that are like far away. It's like, oh, you know, in your ocular range there's like this weapon here that belonged to Chief, or there's a weapons cache up on the cliff here. That's a pretty neat ability. Kind of wish I had that in some of the other Halo games. Don't know if it'll help you find skulls though, if you're like achievement hunting or whatever. Ground pound ability, they added that. It's very similar to like games we've seen before, Saints Row 4, Borderlands. You know, nothing new to Halo, but nothing new in general. It seems like the single-player squad-based is squad-based. So there's going to be a lot of, like, you know, okay, you go over there, you go over there. It seems like you could also issue commands to people. So it's like if one of your allies goes down, you can just be like, you heal that person, as opposed to you having to run up and heal everybody. So that's pretty good. They did announce a release date, so it's in October. And let's see, the multiplayer mode that they came out with was the Warzone. Kind of reminds me from Bethesda's thing that they were talking about with like the Forge, and that you could do like put like NPCs in there and whatnot. You could do that now, and it seems like if you could do Forge in Halo 5, you'd be able to do a lot with Warzone as well, to be able to do things with you know, the Prometheans, the Flood, the Covenant, all that jazz. Overall, it's looking solid. I mean, it's a Halo game. They pump a lot of money into this. You know, it should be good. You know. No final, you can't really make final judgments until it's out, obviously, so let's just move on. Recore. One of those mini games where they don't explain anything, but I really want to see more about it. It looked really cool, that trailer with like the little robot dog and like the things with the red cores, and like apparently you could take the cores out and put them into other things. And the dog, you know, blows himself up, but the cores put into another robot. Like, it looks good, and it's got some good, you know, it's got good devs behind it. It's got Keiji Inafune, you know, the Mega Man guy, and it's got the Metroid Prime devs, which, you know, kind of a big deal. But the thing is, we know nothing about it. Like, give us a little bit more at least. You know, at least give us the genre of game, because from that trailer, I can't tell if it's a shooter or if it's, you know, for right now, we just classify it under, you know, action, because that's basically what it is. They also announced Xbox One backwards compatibility, which, funny enough, they kind of shot themselves in the foot for that, because it's like, for some of the things I'm going to talk about later from all of it, but 360 games can be played. Some of them are available now. Most of them are rare games, which, again, they shot themselves in the foot on for things I'll explain later. They're still going to release more compatible games. You can install the discs onto Xbox One, so that's pretty good. That's pretty neat. They also announced that new Xbox One controller, where you could kind of change up the things on it. You can make it so the triggers click as opposed to, like, you know, press in slowly. They added paddles to the back, which people were modding their Xbox One controllers for that anyway. So hey, if everybody's cheating, then nobody is. They allow you to swap out components like the sticks. It's pretty neat. You can also remap the buttons. So, you know, pretty solid for them to release an official, like an official controller that you can customize, because I don't think, not a lot of companies have done that, as far as I could tell. Like, you know, the Wii was probably the closest with like the attachments onto the remote. So like, it had like the, you know, the nunchuck. We also had like the classic controller, and I think there were like a few other ones. I think they were gonna do like the health monitor as well, but, you know, different animal. We're not into that. They talked about Fallout 4. Basically everything we already knew. The only real differences they went into were the fact that Fallout 3 was going to be bundled with Fallout 4 for the Xbox One. And as far as consoles go, exclusive to Xbox One, there's going to be mod support. But this still kind of ties into what I was saying back in the Bethesda one, where it's like they can still do the paid mods. You know, like, I've seen a lot of comments from the Bethesda one saying, you know, paid mods are never going to work. No. It's still a possibility. Like, they could simply just, like, say, you know, they could simply disguise it as DLC, honestly. Like, they could, like, see mods that people are making. It's like, hey, before you release that, let us check that for you, and if we like it, we'll pay you money for you to be able to, like, that's the thing they could do. It's, the paid DLC is still a viable thing. And it's something that we shouldn't just ignore just because, like, Valve said, oh, this isn't going to work, let's back off. They showed off EA Access. Pretty neat. It's kind of going that whole path of you know, that thing where it's like the physical media is going to kind of be dead, and they're kind of pushing that digital media a bit more. $5 a month service, allow you to play 12 older EA titles. So like I guess the most recent Madden would be considered pretty old because they're going into that. Same with the most recent FIFA because the new one's coming out soon. They have like Plants vs Zombies, Titanfall's on there, Dragon Age Inquisition's going up there. So those are all going to be free on there for the $5 a month service. But then it also offers things like the ability to play games earlier, you know, and get them at discounts. So like things like you know, probably Battlefront or like any other EA title in the Xbox One, you'll be able to purchase them at a slightly cheaper price. I think it was like a 10% discount, and be able to play them earlier than anybody else picking them up in retail. So like I said before about them trying to take down like the physical media, that's a good way to kind of compete with that because you're giving people an incentive to stick with your service. Let's see. They announced Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2. Nothing too big about that. It looks like they added some more like some more zombie and plant classes in the multiplayer. Looks like they have like a Titanfall parody come down there with a zombie at the end there. No real gameplay shown though, so for all intents and purposes, we're just assuming that it's exactly the same as the original Plants vs. Zombies. They showed Forza 6. You know, again, they just showed a trailer with no gameplay. I mean, you can kind of assume, considering it's the Forza, the Forza franchise. And, you know, same kind of gameplay, and they probably did the same thing with all the other ones where, you know, gussied up the trailer to make the graphics look a lot better. I'm really anal about that. Like, I'm going to mention it a lot throughout this whole thing. And really, the only company I've seen that doesn't do that is Nintendo. I mean, like, what was it? Later on here, I'm going to talk about Rise of the Tomb Raider. And for the most part, those graphics looked like they were, you know, on par with what they were doing with the Xbox One. Like, the graphics looked believable. They didn't look, like, super intense. I'll get to that later, though. They showed a little bit of Dark Souls 3. I didn't know what it was until they showed the trailer. Like, it just looked like a bunch of, like, old people carrying rocks. And then, like, some person puts on, like, this possessed mask. And I thought it was a Shadow of the Colossus thing initially, and until, you know, but I knew that it wasn't a developer, but it looked like Shadow of the Colossus, honestly, for me for a little while. Like a darker version of it, like Gothic architecture and whatnot. Still no gameplay, but we can probably assume that's the same as Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1. Tom Clancy's The Division. We got a trailer kind of, you know, giving us a little bit of a story behind it. They said it was going to be an action RPG. You know, was it initially going to be massively multiplayer? Like, is it still massively multiplayer? Because right now it seems like they're kind of glazing over that fact that it's like the original announcement for Division wasn't that saying that it was going to be massively multiplayer. And now it's like they're not mentioning it at all. And I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be that or if it's going to be an action RPG set in like this post-apocalyptic New York. You know, post-apocalyptic meaning that there's a disease. Like the rest of the world's probably fine. Gigantic. I didn't know what type of game this was when they first showed it. Very colorful and stylized, and it seems like it revolves around like getting these giant monsters to fight for you. Apparently it's a MOBA. I didn't get that from the trailer, but apparently there's a beta going up August 16th, so we'll be able to get that more from it. Looks pretty interesting, though. The indie showcase was mostly just a montage. They talked about Xbox exclusives. I'm assuming they're timed, though. Either that or they're going to be on PC as well. When they showed off Tacoma, it just seemed like, you know, abandoned moon-based game, very story-driven. You know, you're just walking around first person, getting bits and pieces of the story of what happened to the moon base as you go on. If you're into like the whole storytelling aspect, it seems like a really good game to get into. Didn't show a lot of action though, or really nothing to that effect at all. So you kind of have to wonder, is there going to be a lot of, you know, it's an abandoned moon base and nobody knows what happened. So you have to assume that there's going to be at least some sort of action sequences to it. Ashen looks really good. I mean, from what it was, they didn't show any gameplay of that either, but it was, but you know, it was stylized. It was like, you know, instead of like having zombies, it was giant tree enemies, which, you know, zombies very overplayed. Giant trees are very, are a new breaking ground as far as, monstrous hordes. They're all still monstrous hordes, but hey, they're giant trees. Cooperation seems to be pretty important in that game too. So if it's one of those games where it's like, kind of like if it's like a DayZ style one, it doesn't seem like it's going to have Let me see if I can figure that. It seems like it's going to focus more on helping people out as opposed to like just going around killing each other. And I feel like that goes very against human nature in those games. So we'll have to see how that works as it comes out. Beyond Eyes. Beyond Eyes look pretty good. It kind of showed like what this person. It kind of gives you a visual idea of what somebody without sight is kind of like seeing and hearing. However, you can't really accurately portray that because, your imagination is based on what you see with your senses, whereas like a blind person doesn't have sight. So they can pretty much more or less imagine anything. But like, it's a good sort of thing. It seems like it's a puzzle game, more or less. I can't tell if they showed gameplay in it or if that was all just like a trailer just to show off what it was a little bit about. Didn't seem that good. Cuphead, though, wow, that looks really good. A 2D platformer, like in the style of those like 1930s cartoons. It seems so unreal. It seems like that you play this kind of game and it's like, oh, what kind of cartoon are you watching? Oh, it's not a cartoon. You're just like you're actually playing this game, and it's like. Nobody's ever thought of that kind of thing. I've never seen anything where, things didn't overtly look like sprites, It seems like there was like actual, I don't know. I don't know really how to describe it. It's like, you got the backgrounds, you got like the characters and they move like all like, rubber hose band style, like in those old cartoons. And it's just like, it gives if the platforming is good, I could see that being like a huge contender for the indie games. Also it'd probably have to be a little bit expansive as well, because it's like if you just have like very little gameplay with it, it's not gonna all you really have is a pretty looking game with nothing behind it. Hopefully we'll get some good gameplay behind it, but the art looks amazing for what we've seen here. Outside of the indie games, we got Ion. I have no idea what it's about. All I know is that it seems like it's massively multiplayer and that it's in space, and that's it. And there's no real direction to it. It seems like you build like spaceships and like space stations and all that. But honestly, that didn't really give us anything to go on. Obviously, it's a teaser, but I kind of like we need information. We need information on this because like how can we get hype behind something that we know absolutely nothing about? Honestly, like the teasers are there to kind of like tease you into something that you already kind of know. So like if there was like a new Halo teaser. It's like, oh, the Master Chief is returning. Well, we all know Master Chief, so that's good. All we have in this is that being developed by the DayZ guy. That's it. Rise of the Tomb Raider they showed. The gameplay looked pretty good. I noticed there were a few QuickTime events, which I guess are becoming a little bit more acceptable in games nowadays. But, QuickTime events were always kind of gimmicky to me, and it just seemed like, oh, we don't want to have to program all these, I guess it's like kind of a shortcut into, as opposed to having to program all these different functions for all these little things that really don't make sense in the grand scheme of the game. So like, the ice pick climbing, I'm assuming that's only going to be there for like, 2 or 3 instances throughout the game, and you don't really need an entire control scheme based around that. So, I'm talking about our QuickTime events here. But, like, the cutscenes seem to be integrated into the gameplay, so, like, it's just kind of like, camera, like, pans around, you see the characters talking, and then it, like, pans back, and, like, you're back in the gameplay immediately. It seems good. Loading zones also seem to be integrated. Like, if you notice in the trailer, when Lara is climbing up to the top of the ice shelf, in the top left corner, there's, like, this little spinning, like, Tomb Raider logo. I'm assuming that means that the game was loading, that it was saving. I'm going to assume loading, because I don't think it was a checkpoint, honestly. But it just seems like that they're trying to make this whole thing seamless. Probably not from outside to inside though, but like make it like a much more vast open world. So yeah, that seemed pretty good. The rare replay collection, that's one of those things that kind of takes their backwards compatibility, and it's like, what's the point of the backwards compatibility? Why are you crippling yourself as far as sales go in order to be able, crippling yourselves as far as sales go to do backwards compatibility and release these collections. I guess like to try and keep fans happy, they release the backwards compatibility, but like the rare replay is really good because 30 games for $30, that's a game $1. And you got Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Like those 3 games alone are worth like $60 each, I'd say, because they're such huge experiences and they're incredible. So yeah, thumbs up, really behind Rare Replay on that one, really good. They also showed off Sea of Thieves, which still not entirely sure on. It looks like it's a pirate massive multiplayer game. You know, kind of like actually, you know what? It was kind of made me think of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And it's like, it's that multiplayer from it's that multiplayer that we wanted in Black Flag that we never really got. So yeah, like, if, you know, let's see how it unfolds. It looks very colorful, like, you know, a little bit stylized. We'll have to see more of it because they didn't really give us a good look there. But looks like you're using like your teamwork to be able to control your ship. And it looks like guilds are probably going to be based around, you know, different crews for different ships. I can probably see a lot of One Piece references going into that. They showed off Fable Legends, and it's like, you know, they brought us in there thinking it's like, oh, we're supposed to know what this is about. One of my friends described it from what they've seen so far as like kind of like Orcs Must Die, you know, that game, that you know, third-person tower defense game with the Fable characters. Oh, that's right. You know what that was? That was the I forgot. I just realized this now. Fable Legends was that one where it's like the asymmetrical multiplayer, where it's like you got the few people in there being like the players, and you got the one person like high up being the dungeon master. And that's why that trailer was like, oh, this is not their story. I want them out of here. So yeah, basically like that. Apparently it's also going to have Valve VR and Oculus support. At least the Xbox One is. They also talked about their augmented reality platform, the HoloLens, which that Minecraft demo looked really, really cool. I'd love to see more games integrated into that. However, I'd like to see a price point for it as well before I get too excited about it. Like the Minecraft demo they did for HoloLens looked really cool because like you had that, you know, you had that just on the table there, and you can control things with your hands. Like apparently it can detect your body in 3D space, probably some kind of like infrared technology or something. But you can like move things, you could like pan around the map, you could follow players, and it looked cool. Like I know it just seemed like I'm just like hyping this up, but it looked like incredible. Like augmented reality is something that's like very rarely touched upon because it's kind of hard to implement into just like base things. But I guess if you have like a, you know, a table, it would work out. I don't know. We'll have to see where that goes from there. And finally, after that, they're re-releasing Gears of War on Xbox One. Basically, just updated graphics and updated frame rate. If you played the original and you still have the original, you know, just play that. Honestly, because like re-releases, you know, main release point of them is, you know, getting more money out of people who already played them. Let's relive this for another like $40 price point, or I could just play the one I already have on 360. They also showed off a gameplay trailer of Gears of War 4. It was dark. Like honestly, you didn't see a lot there, and it's just like, you know, we got, you know, the classic weapons. We have like new utilizations for them, like the Lancer can chop through doors. I haven't actually played a lot of Gears of War, so I don't know if that was a thing in the past. You got like bigger, meaner-looking locusts. Apparently, it's co-op. It kind of looks like like the newer Resident Evil games, in a sense, because it's like, or at least in that area, it did, because it's like, oh, it's dark and mysterious, and we don't know what's going on. It's like it could pop out at us at any minute. And it's like, you know, oh, you're fighting these giant horde things, and it's like, oh, your partner's down, you know, pick them back up. I guess that was core Gears of War gameplay back in the day as well, because they had co-op then too. But you know, not really getting a lot out of the fact that it's more or less the same as what we've seen before in Gears of War. So we'll have to keep an eye on it to see what's happening with it. And I guess ultimately that was their goal. And aside from that, that was all that Microsoft show from their E3 press conference. So thank you all for listening to me ramble on about what I think about all this. It seems like it's going to be pretty neat. I also just realized I skipped over Rainbow Six Siege entirely. Good to see that's coming with like, you know, the Rainbow Six Vegas 1 and 2. It seems like they added a few more missions, but still not a lot shown. It's something where it's like it seems like they're trying to tease people into looking into these things and like keeping an eye on them. So it's not like, you know, oh, we're giving you everything, so now there's nothing to be. Actually, it's a smart move now that I think about it. They're trying to keep our attention. They're trying to give us as little as possible to try and keep our attention, and then slowly release more information to try to keep that hype up. Because honestly, if you show like a trailer with all these different things going on, the hype is going to be at its peak at E3, and then it's going to, like, you know, slowly, I guess the graph's going the other way, but slowly go down until, like, you know, more information, and then more information, and then you're going to get to that point where it's like release date, and it goes up and then, you know, if the game is good, it'll kind of like taper there for a little while, but then if it's not, it'll just plummet straight back down. So good to see what that they're trying to like, you know, leak things out a little bit at a time and just kind of like keep the hype at a steady level. I'm saying that's good from a business standpoint, not for the consumer. Because, you know, it's good to see like games that deserve to be praised and deserve to have the hype behind them, you know, stay at a constant rate of hype throughout the whole thing. I'm just rambling at this point. I'm going to end this off here. Thank you all for listening to my thoughts and opinions on Microsoft's E3 conference. Overall, pretty good. I'm mostly interested in Recore and the Rare Pirate game. I mean, honestly, they look... very little was shown, but they look promising. So, hopefully next time with... who's next? EA's conference, I think, is next. We'll dive a little bit more into that EA Access program and see where it goes from there. See you all then!